Yeah, okay. LSU has won a bunch of games. But the fact that the staff was 16-16 against top 10 teams, that tells you right there. It's a coaching problem. And with that recruiting base and with that recruiting, top 5 recruiting every year, that's what you have to do. You have to say, do we want to be 9 wins every year? Or do we want to get into that elite class? And that's what they did. I mean, there's no sense in LSU having some of the losses that they had, no developing in talent, especially from the quarterback position, which is why you saw Les Miles and Cam Cameron gone. I think the Wisconsin game is when that all kind of transpired. So, but anyhow, that's my take on the recruiting situation with LSU and why that actually led Les Miles recruiting so well actually led to his demise. But that's on him. That's not on anybody else but him. He's the coach. He needs to coach up and develop his players. Now, what are some schools that could possibly poach some members of this class? I think the 2 schools in the SEC that you have to watch out for are Alabama and Texas A&M. Alabama for obvious reasons. Coaching championships. They'll come in here and try to steal a few high-profile recruits, and they've done it in the past. Landon Collins a few years back. A&M's got that ability because being in Texas. The fact they're right around the corner from Houston, which is a hotbed for LSU recruits. They can steer this possibly in their direction using this firing of Les Miles to do it. I honestly don't think LSU has anything to worry with any of these other schools. They're Texas recruits. Jamon Austin, Austin Deculus, Manny Netherly. Those guys would be your targets for Alabama. Excuse me, for A&M. Particularly Austin. A&M loved Austin. He looked like he was going to commit to A&M, but LSU stole him at the last minute in the summertime. Of course, he's got, ample time to take other visits before signing day. But I think for the most part, LSU is going to be good with this class. You can't be naive into thinking that there may be 2 or 3 guys that, will leave. You have to understand that's more than likely going to happen. But this staff will keep this class together for the most part intact. But the key is not only keeping this class intact, but convincing the ones on the fence that LSU is still good. And that's what Austin Thomas is going to do. So, LSU's got a good shot at finishing. Right now, they're still looking as a top 4 class. Ohio State is the top of the class right now, as they're in that number 1 spot. They're having a phenomenal class this year. We've got 17 commitments. I think they've got like three 5-stars and a bunch of 4-stars already committed. I mean, they're piling some serious defensive backs. I mean, they've got 5. Or they've got 4 with a 5th still interested. So they're definitely going to load up on that back end on the defense. They're definitely going to look back, get that back end short up, and that's what Urban Meyer and staff are doing this year. They're trying to gauge these defensive players to come, and he's grabbing them from Florida too. Right now they're in that spot. Alabama's at number 2, Georgia's at number 3, LSU comes in there at 4. So it's going to be an interesting run here over the next few months to see how LSU maintains the staff, or maintains their staff and maintains these commitments. When this recruiting heats up, usually in November, December, here on the Jameson Davis Show, we'll have all of your updates, give you ideas. We'll give you some tidbits of information on what to expect. Who's looking at LSU? Who was committed to a school and is looking hard at LSU? Things of that nature. And we're going to do that in terms of looking at recruiting as a whole. One question I had asked is, what about college game day, high-profile games have on recruiting? What effect? Well, when a recruiter or a kid is looking at a university and they see game day, they see ESPN, they see the national spotlight, particularly in this Clemson-Louisville contest this Saturday night. By the way, it's going to be a phenomenal game. It's that spotlight, it's that celebrity mentality, if you will, that everybody's looking at me. This university is in the headlights and headlines. If I come to this school, I'm going to get noticed. People are going to be into me. It's really, for game day to be on, that's a big recruiting tool. I've had questions about if a school doesn't get any game day games or our profile games, does that mean they can't recruit any of these kids? They don't get the big name? No, it doesn't. But it helps out a lot more. It's kind of like that extra sales pitch that you have when you're trying to get a kid to your school. Like, hey, yeah, we are in the SEC or we are in the ACC or the Big Ten or wherever he's recruiting, and say, we get game day here. Look at our high-profile games. These 18-year-old kids love it. That's a good question. I mean, that's for sure. Is that having this schedule's got high-profile games on it is only going to help you. It's like these kids see Herb Street, Corso, and this bunch have been on ESPN for years. And it's like, they looked at them as celebrities, and now it's like, we're on campus, this university, and they're here. Kind of stars in the eyes type of effect. Speaking of Herb Street, he said something interesting that I had stumbled upon the other day. Is he said that, just as a tidbit or side note, is that he would have fired Les Miles and was surprised LSU didn't fire Les Miles after the Alabama game in which they lost 21-0 in the national championship. I just think this has been coming for a long time, and it seems, bam, all of a sudden. Just been a big ball rolling downhill. But I thought that was interesting, his little take on Les Miles firing and how it didn't surprise him, and he was surprised it didn't happen 4 or 5 years ago, but particularly didn't happen last year. Something else I found interesting as well is Les Miles actually turned down the job to Michigan in 2011. Supposedly Michigan had brought the dominoes plane down. Tried to offer Miles the world, and Miles said, not going to have it. And then LSU extended that contract. Gave him all that money. So I believe Les had it for LSU. He really loved it. Loved the kid, loved the school. And had his opportunities, but the way things are trending downward, it's time for a change. Stuff like that happens. But I think LSU is going to be better off. I really do. I think they're going to get a really good coach in here. It's going to put the excitement back in LSU football. It's going to get them back on that double-digit win platform, back into that platform where the nation looks at them as a top 5 and not as a third place in their division type team, which is where they're at right now. And people that complain, I've heard a lot about these dual threat quarterbacks that come to LSU so often. And if the scheme isn't in place, then yes, it's not a good situation. And that's what's happened with LSU and these dual threat quarterbacks. It's not that dual threat quarterbacks don't work. You look at all these other schools, they work. There's no question that they work. It's just a situation of our system isn't the best system for these kids. If you get a guy in here like a Tom Herman that runs that kind of system. Those kids are going to develop into good quarterbacks. I mean, look at the guy they have now. Greg Ward Jr. Just ripped Oklahoma up. Can throw in a lot of wrinkles with that offense that he runs. That's something he can do. And that's something that he will do. If he comes to LSU, he could develop. If Brandon Harris has an inkling of intelligence, Tom Herman will be able to develop him into a good quarterback in his system. Lowell Narciso, aforementioned before, would be somebody that would thrive in a Tom Herman system. Miles Brennan and Danny Etling, we don't know. We hadn't seen Tom Herman run a pro-style quarterback as he has these dual threat guys. So that's something we don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see how this thing develops. From a recruiting standpoint, honestly, guys, I don't think LSU has anything to be worried about. I think the class will maintain, and LSU will be sitting pretty come signing day. And, something else interesting that I heard the other day, I heard Skip Bertman talk about the development of how the whole Nick Saban thing went down and how Les Miles was hired and why. And I'm not going to bring up a whole lot of stuff on it, but I just found it interesting that Saban really wanted to stay. But it was that itch that he had for the NFL. And Miami came up and offered him in a range of $6 million, which back then is like 10 today. And Saban later admitted that was a mistake. He wished he could have taken it back, but hey, it is what it is. And then he just ran. He handled it the wrong way, like he does a lot of things. The way he held LSU hostage and announced it on Christmas and all that stuff. But the fact he had 75 scholarship players coming back the next year, that was hard for him to leave, but he did. Les Miles was brought in, Skip said, because he fit the mold of a family guy, had young kids, somebody that wasn't going to take off and leave. That threat wasn't there, which is one good thing by getting Les Miles is he wasn't offered jobs, really. I mean, not a whole lot, and it wasn't a situation every year. And he was offered, I think Arkansas was trying to get him 1 year, Michigan, obviously, but that's about it. With Saban, it was NFL every year. And I think it was interesting to see how Skip was viewing the situation when he brought Les Miles in. They tried to keep Saban here. They did, for obvious reasons. And he just said that they weren't able to compete with what he wanted. But he's also said that he's confident, LSU's going to get the right guy in here that's going to put this program and get into elite status again. So, interesting interview. Really interesting interview. We're going to move on from recruiting into my college football segment. I'm going through, I told you guys yesterday that I wanted to preview a few other games. And I'm going to start right now with this Tennessee game. Tennessee and Georgia. 2:30 ESPN from Sanford Stadium, between the hedges, Athens, Georgia. An old-fashioned SEC West, Slabanaka. It's going to be a real good game. This is an interesting situation. And what I like to take a look at is this has an opportunity to be in a situation where opposite things happened to these teams. One had a huge emotional win. Big time. And Tennessee in that 38 unanswered points after being down 21-0. Huge emotional game. Huge impact on the next week. Where you have a Georgia team that just got destroyed in every phase by Ole Miss. Just got hammered. So you have a team that comes in needing to win badly. They're going to be aggravated, mad, ready to get back on the field and ready to kick somebody behind. And you have a team coming off a huge win. It's going to be interesting. Now, I give two sides to every story, so I'm going to give you why Tennessee will win and then why Georgia will win, and then give you my prediction. Tennessee, is this the game that they break through? Is this the game that they tack on with the Florida win to get back into that status that they've just died to get back to? It's a huge game for them again. This game could have recruiting impacts, and will have recruiting impacts for Butch Jones. Tennessee has the talent, the experience, and things in place to not only win the East, but if they were to run the table, to get into the national title race. Now, I know that's far-fetched, but it's what lies ahead of this team. They've been a second-half team this year, both Virginia Tech and Florida. Is this finally going to be a team that dominates 4 quarters, or are they going to be another second-half team this Saturday? Well, this team comes off a huge win, not only by the fact they came back like they did, but they had to beat Florida in 11 straight years. This was a huge win for Tennessee on multiple scales. And this showed to me that this is a different team with a different mindset, a different attitude. The one that could have gotten down and gave up and gotten blown out by Florida. I think Butch Jones kind of relayed to his Tennessee team that, hey, look, we've got some tip balls, guys. Florida's got a couple of advantages there. They've got a couple breaks. But we can still get this. And that's what they did when they took hold of it. Now, this Saturday, this is about a Tennessee defense that has to roll from the start and come out with big plays in the first half. Not give up long plays. Get some turnovers. Don't have to wait to the second half before waking up and shutting down the opponent. That's something Ole Miss did right away with Georgia. They put the hammer down right away. Just crushed their spirit. And Tennessee has the ability to do it. Right now, Georgia's offense is really in a mess. The ground game got together against North Carolina. Chubb had a great game. But since then, they've kind of struggled at some times in the run game. The passing attack just completely went into the tank. No momentum there. If Tennessee can come out and grab a lead, this isn't a Georgia passing game that can play comeback football from behind. Tennessee can shut it down early. It's not that efficient. It's not that potent. However, if you give it some confidence and you let them hang around in the game, that can create problems for you. But the key is, get a lead, and there won't be an issue. If you don't get a lead, Georgia can come back. So to keep Tennessee winning this game, and they will win it, if they just keep Georgia, don't let them breathe in that first half. Now, on the flip side, why Georgia will win. Georgia, as I said, is coming off a big time loss. This program definitely hurt by it. They're going to have to get it together and really ride the ship if they expect to beat this Tennessee team. They're definitely going to use the home field advantage to their advantage. The one thing Georgia can do is they can put long, grueling, grinding drives together. As I just mentioned, they don't have a really efficient passing attack, but they can run the football. It's time possession for Georgia. That's the key here. That's the key. Time possession. I know Georgia fans they need a win bad, and they know that's the only way for them to grab it is through time possession, run the ball, play solid defense, and not get behind early.